Hello YouTube, my name is Steve. So this is the second in my series where I'm covering redoing my ground system. If you didn't catch my first video on the ground system, there's going to be a link in the description box down below. I went through and I put some copper tape both in the pickup cavity and in the switch cavity, and in this one I'm going to do it in the lower control cavity where I have all my potentiometers. Now originally I thought that there wasn't a wire connecting my ground system to my bridge, and that actually wasn't the case. When I pulled out the stud closest to the control cavity, it turns out that instead of using the old hole, the guy that redid it drilled like a diagonal hole into the switch cavity and passed a wire through there. The wire that he used to do that actually did not have a lot of metal exposed, so I exposed more metal on it, balled up the end, so hopefully we get better contact. I'm thinking it just didn't have good contact. So I got that pulled, and then I also ran a secondary wire just for myself, just for good measure basically, and I connected that to the ground system as well. So, you know, better contact on the original wire and contact at a different point with a second wire.
Now the first thing I got to do to get into this guitar is I got to remove these control knobs. Now I've taken these off enough times that they just pop right off. I have a washcloth there, not for any other reason other than to help me pull the control knobs off. Sometimes if you're having trouble pulling them off, you can just shimmy the washcloth underneath. Once you get it underneath, just get it just past center and then pull up on the washcloth and it'll usually pull that knob loose. Now that I've got the knobs off, I'm going to pop these controls out of the way so I can lay down this copper tape. Now, if you missed my first video, like I had mentioned, it's going to be in the description box down below, but I can't get it out of my head that copper tape is just like gum wrapper from when I was a kid. And so, yeah, just taking that silver adhesive foil off of like a juicy fruit stick, this just cracks me up. Once again, we are watching Psych. Now, I am now on season 6. It's been a week and I've made it through 2 seasons. Now, the hardest part right here, where I was taking the hobby knife, is I didn't realize it the first time, but I had to leave a bit of a connection for the top and the bottom. So what I'm doing with the hobby knife right now is I'm making little slices on the copper tape and laying it over so that when I put the lid on it, the lid will connect, and that way we do get that Faraday cage kind of connection. After doing this project, I have decided to rewire this guitar, and having decided to rewire this guitar after I had finished the project basically led me to just kind of float around all the wiring, hoping that I wouldn't damage anything. It would have been so much easier if I'd have just yanked all this crap out and started over when I was done, but I came to the decision at the end because I decided I wanted to wire it just like my SG, so that I had one push-pull that would cover phase reverse and the other push-pull that would cover coil split. So that way I can get those Strat tones with the nasty hum in it if I wanted to. Now, I'm not a big fan of hum, but it worked out for my SG. I used it at church and the pastor wanted to use it for a specific song, and going to the bridge pickup and the coil split, it was pretty close to a Strat sound. He has an American Fender in Olympic White, and that is his little baby, and being able to get my SG near that tone, I could tell helped him enjoy my guitar a little more. So coil split is not my favorite sound. I'm not a big fan of Fender tones, but I feel like it does serve a purpose, especially when I share my guitar, or you know, I'm hanging out with a friend and they're like, let me give it a shot. Just having that range of tones available makes it a more enjoyable experience for the both of us. Now I'm a bit upset. After I finished wiring this, the Sharks game started, and they lost to Nashville. It was a really interesting game to watch. Nashville scored, San Jose scored, Nashville scored, San Jose scored, Nashville scored, and then eventually San Jose responded. It took them a lot longer that time, and then after that it was just, I mean, Nashville was playing so dirty and they were not getting called for anything. They did get called for a few things, but they definitely got away with a lot more than the Sharks did, and yeah, they ended up losing. Sharks started playing 6-man on a power play towards the end, and Nashville was able to break away and score a final goal, like I want to say it was like 17 seconds left, and that pretty much ended the game. And the Sharks had every opportunity. I mean, they had a last-minute penalty shot that did not make it. Yep, they just did not make it. Now that I got the control cavity done, let's pop all these nuts in and get it flipped around. So my original idea for running a wire into the cavity without having to make a new hole or drill anything was I was going to just file a little bit out of the pickup ring, just enough for a wire to go through, and I was going to run a wire from the bridge into the pickup cavity and route from there throughout the guitar. Now, I did the filing and I got it to where I wanted it to be, and then I decided, hey, why don't I just pull out the stud just to make sure that there is no hole. Now, the bridge was moved, and so I figured there was no hole, especially since I couldn't find where the wire came through. Now here I am preparing to remove the sleeve that the stud goes down into, and at this point my camera battery died and I didn't realize it, so there is a bit of a jump cut. And just to cover how I removed the sleeve is I basically took one of the screws from the pickup, I dropped it into the sleeve with the head of the screw down, so that way it didn't dig into the guitar body. And then I took the stud and I put the stud in, and I just kept screwing the stud down, and the stud pulled the sleeve up because the stud couldn't go all the way down into the cavity like it's used to, because that screw was in the way. Now if you ever get a chance to look at a sleeve, they are hollow, completely hollow all the way through, and that's how you can remove it. So that didn't actually make it onto camera. Once I removed that, I took a look around and I saw that the wire was there. There was very little bit of wire exposed, which probably wasn't making any contact, so I stripped that a little more, balled up the end, and then I stuck a second wire in, balled up the end of that just to make sure that we had a good connection, and I ran the wire to a different point in the ground system, so just in case that original wire isn't getting contact or wasn't wired right or had any sort of problem, that problem is now gone. Finding that hole and finding that wire was a surprise to me, just because, yeah, and honestly I think with the amount of metal that was exposed that it wasn't getting any contact. Just a tiny bit of the plastic was stripped off. The way it was kind of pressed in there, I almost doubt it was getting any contact to the bridge. But, you know, I don't know for sure. I can't say for certain, but the thing is I got it fixed. So now I got a little bit of the hole that I filed on the pickup ring, but that's not a big deal. No one's ever going to see it. No one's ever going to notice it. I was ready to just wire it my own way and did not think of checking it until after I had filed down that pickup ring. Basically what you missed was me running that second wire. Now I have to run a ground wire to every cavity, so that way the copper wiring does what it needs to do. Without it connected to ground, it doesn't really work like a Faraday cage. Now getting the ground wire into the regular control cavity was quite the labor-intensive process. There was so many wires going into that control cavity, and that channel was pretty small. And so just getting it to go all the way through was a bit of a chore. The struggle is real, folks, but I managed to make it through. Now that I've got a wire running into every cavity, all the wires as they come together in the switch cavity, I'm just gonna drop a little bit of solder and solder it right down there. Now it's time to pack it all up. Now here I take two wires, I put one of the wires down against the copper tape, and then the second wire goes from the copper tape up to the ground system, and that's where it all loops back in a second time. And now I just gotta tighten everything down and make sure that we are good to go. And here we have a Roland Cube. This is definitely one of my favorite amplifiers just because of the versatility and the incredible sound that this pumps out. The tone is just phenomenal for a 1-watt amplifier. Not only that, but it's battery powered. So I'm able to take that sweet tone and just take it wherever I need to go without having to worry about a plug. Now here I am testing how the system works. Testing all of the little parts by tapping them first with my finger to see how it affects the ground, and then I start tapping with the pliers. Now it's time to throw some strings on this puppy and we will get some tones. So this project is not done yet. I got all of the cavities shielded and I got the shielding grounded. And now that we got all that wrapped up, as you heard, the sound through there is quiet. So in that settings that I had, the ground system was just absolutely perfect. So
We reduced the noise on it, and I'm gonna redo all the wiring basically to have it rewired like my Gibson SG, just so that I have the same settings. Stay tuned.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for choosing my channel. If you would like to subscribe, please click up here. If you would like to watch my latest guitar video, please click over here. If you would like to watch my latest piano practice video, please click here. And if you would like to watch my latest outdoor/mountain bike video, please click here. You have a wonderful day, and thanks for watching.